Hello, welcome to another edition of Trial by Magus. Today we're going to be taking a look at this, the Ilyushin IL-2 two-seater. This is the Tier 6 tech tree attack aircraft for the Soviet Union. And the brief backstory on this, you can get more by taking a look at my IL-2 mod guide. But basically, this is the updated version of the IL-2 that was sent to Red Air Force units on the Eastern Front after the pilots refused to fly the IL-2 without any kind of defensive armament. The ground crews cut out the area behind the cockpit and put in a basket and placed another crewman with a machine gun in the back of the plane. So, with the outright rebellion of their attack aircraft pilots threatened, the Politburo went back to Ilyushin and instructed them to redesign the aircraft with a rear gunner as originally intended, because it turns out that not just fascists and bourgeois capitalists need defensive fire. So, taking a look at this aircraft here, she looks a lot more sturdy and definitely looks like she carries bigger guns than the IL-2 you have seen before. So let's take a look at her equipment. You have pretty much everything but the kitchen sink on this aircraft. You have a pair of, you start off with a pair of 20mm cannons, upgradable to 23s, and finally to 37s. Consider this a high priority for your aircraft because those cannons are useful against both ground targets and air targets, and, well, you have just as much ammunition available for them at the beginning of the match as you do at the end. So definitely get that. There's a pair of 7.62mm machine guns that never change, that are mounted out on the wings. Those are useful for starting things on fire. Your rear gun starts out as a 7.62mm Shikos. Decent, but really lacking punch at Tier 6. You can upgrade that to a 12.7mm 50 cal UBT machine gun, which takes the range of your rear gunner out to 600 meters before any equipment or gunner skills are taken into consideration. Field of fire, 40 degrees, 60 degrees elevation, and 10 degrees down angle. Wondering exactly how that machine gun manages to fire down, but, you know, whatever. For ordnance, you start off with no weapons. If you've previously researched them, you can have access to the FAB 100 kilogram high explosive bombs, and those can be further upgraded to the FAB 250s, but the number of bombs you carry drops from 4 down to 2. This is why I have not researched them yet. I prefer having more bombs instead of less. Rockets. You've most likely previously researched the ROFS-82 rockets, which are decent, fairly low damage, but it's enough to kill an aircraft, and the blast radius is small. You upgrade those to the RS-132 rockets, which have a damage output about 30% higher, and the damage radius increased by 10 meters. That's very important, because if you try to kill an aircraft with a proximity explosion, like firing a rocket at the ground underneath, say, a German attack aircraft, you need the explosion to be big in order for it to reach that aircraft, unless he is flying 10 meters above the ground. Equipment-wise, on this aircraft, I have placed improved covering, because additional hit points on a percentage basis on an aircraft that has a ridiculous amount of health to begin with is good. It also cuts down on the amount of critical hits you will take when you come under cannon fire, which, in an IL-2, if you are not familiar with flying these aircraft, you get shot at a lot. Reinforced airframe, same principle as the improved covering, further reduction in chances of critical hits, and plus 15% to your aircraft's hit point pool. This is very important and can make the difference when it comes down to dueling other attack aircraft, and allows you to use that huge health pool to soak up damage while you kite out enemy fighters and either kill them with your tail gunner, set them up for an opportunity for a bomb kill, or drag them into friendly AA. And I have the improved reflector sight, because I often go into air-to-air combat with my attack aircraft, whether they are Russian or German or English, French, whatever. I shoot at planes with my attack aircraft. And the improved reflector sight really allows those giant 37mm cannons to get some hits off. I mean, those cannons are the same size as the 37mm that are used on the Stuka, and you all have seen how much I love that thing. Now, pilot skills. On my pilot here, I have a rather standard attack aircraft loadout. I did take the fire resistance skill because, well, you only have one fire extinguisher, and with the size of the health pool on the IL-2 two-seater, you'll probably catch on fire more than once in a battle. I have also taken marksman, so that more of my cannon shells hit the ground targets, allowing me to wipe out a ground target in fewer passes, usually one, with the assistance of a rocket or a bomb in the case of a hardened target like a ship. And then I took protection expert, which increases the effect of improved covering and the reinforced airframe that I have placed on my aircraft. That is very key because it gives you a further health point boost and increases your resistance to critical hits even more. My IL-2t has been hit by rockets before and not taken critical damage. I have taken none of the advanced skills. I have 2 points available. I could choose to take the firefighter or the cruise flight skill at this time, but neither of those really strike me as particularly useful. I think I will hang on until I get a 3rd point on this aircraft, this aircraft's pilot, and get that Marksman 2 ability, which also helps to counteract the effect of the evasive target ability that light fighter pilots love to take. Now for my gunner, I have taken a few obvious skills. I opted for armorer to increase the damage of my 50 caliber rear firing machine gun by 20%. That's good. Ballistics expert I passed up because I really wanted this. Weakest link. This is a key ability for all Soviet aircraft because they tend to have the best tail guns that do the most damage. So you want to focus on killing enemy aircraft and increasing your ability to do damage, as opposed to the quick reflexes or precision gunner abilities that cause you to start firing faster and give you a damage reduction buff against the aircraft that your tail gunner is currently engaging, respectively. Now the weakest link is all about defeating the trick of having a low health aircraft on the enemy team sneak in behind a full health aircraft that is currently on your tail and starting to put out damage on you. Your gunner will now, if you have this ability, your gunner will now notice that heavily damaged aircraft and put his fire on him first, thus increasing the chances that you're going to take down aircraft in your rear firing arc before they can do serious damage to you. Very useful for this aircraft, and this ability only becomes more useful as you go further up the tech line. Now, tactics in the Ilyushin IL-2 two-seater. Well, obviously, by the marks I have on the side here, this aircraft is best used taking out ground targets. And that chess game is something that the IL-2 is very, very good at, but she's also competent at engaging enemy aircraft and attackers if you set up a plan and you're thinking about your approach to them beforehand. I'm going to show you examples of that here soon. The IL-2 is best used in Phase 1 of a battle, that'd be the first 5 minutes, taking out as many ground targets as possible. You want to give your team a huge supremacy lead with your ability to quickly annihilate ground targets with your heavy cannons, rockets, and bombs. Once that is taken care of, you need to reassess the situation in Phase 2. Phase 2 begins for your aircraft when you have run out of rockets and bombs. Phase 2, take a look at how the teams are matched. If your team has a huge lead in the number of aircraft that are still airborne, and it looks like you have a victory in the works, feel free to continue taking on ground targets. If it's a close match as far as aircraft that are in the air, but your team has the supremacy lead because of the work you did in Phase 1, I would suggest taking your IL-2, getting back to the dogfight, lending your aid there with your cannons. Take shots at anything that is not paying attention to you, because in the middle of the fight, people aren't going to be looking for an aggressive IL-2. They only start hunting you, generally speaking, at the end of the match if you're the last, one of the last 2 or 3 aircraft left alive. So that's going to come to you anyway. Why not bring the fight to them early? Catch a couple by surprise. Alternately, you can instead divert your Sturmovik back to your own team's ground targets and eliminate the attack aircraft that are working on them. If there are bot attackers on the enemy team, I guarantee you that's what they'll be doing. If there are certain players on the enemy team, I also guarantee that's what they'll be doing. Eliminate them, stop them from resetting your supremacy meter, keep them from jacking up their superiority points even higher, and hey, shooting down an attack aircraft causes a 25% reduction in the supremacy meter for the enemy team. That's a win all the way around. When Phase 3 comes around, if Phase 1 and 2 have gone well for your team, Phase 3 is a bygone conclusion. Do what you can to get more credits and XP earned on your aircraft. Most effectively done by mopping up the last few outlying ground targets that are left by this point, and then call it a win. I have a battle here for you in the IL-2t Sturmovik. This is from the Japanese threat event, and I use all of the tactics that I have detailed here. I get into a dogfight with the German Ju-88P and prevail. I eliminate ground targets until my ordnance is nearly expended, and then I get into the fight and eliminate a player attack aircraft on the enemy team, and then I do what is called the Sturmovik's Gambit. Basically, you wag your tail at the enemy fighters on the enemy team, and you see if you can get them to chase you into friendly territory. My team was at a heavy disadvantage before I did this, but I led, well, I think it was about 4 enemy fighters into my AA. I killed 2 of them with my tail gunner on the way in, and the last one died sometime after I got shot down. Yes, my Sturmovik blows up in this video. It happens more often than I show, because generally if I die it happens early because I made a big mistake, and those are things I like to caution people against, not show off actually doing, unless I'm doing an April Fool's video or something like that. That'll come next year. But watch, enjoy. I hope that you pick up something about how to use the IL-2 two-seater Sturmovik from this video, and good hunting. Okay, here I have selected my first targets, and the Ju-88 flies in between me and them, so I immediately go ahead and engage that Junkers, which should be able to completely out-dogfight me, but he is focused instead on taking out ground targets. That's a mistake for an attack aircraft. If anything gets on your tail, especially another attacker, immediately go evasive, or this will happen to you. Okay, here we are back on task. I'm continuing to eliminate ground targets. Now all these yellow boxes and yellow triangles, those are soft targets. You only want to eliminate those with your guns, because they'll take full damage, unless you're in a situation like that where I ran out of time and I wanted to continue on my path. Continuing on, I encounter another Junkers here, which is fighting another attack aircraft on my team. So I immediately come to his aid and try to get this German swatted off of his tail. This German is now in a sticky situation where he can't disengage from either of us without the other one getting on his tail. So it's pretty much game over for him. There he goes. Now, continuing to look around, there's plenty of more targets to take out. I only want to use my rockets if I'm pressed for time or if it's a hard target. That's a red square. Generally find those on ships and bunkers. And that's what your bombs and your rockets are for. Everything else, you want to use your guns on, because those rockets can be conserved to be used in an emergency if something comes at you head on that's big, like another attacker or a heavy fighter, or if you need to take out an attacker at a distance really quickly. The rockets are the way to go. Bombs are also very useful for slapping enemies off of your tail. Now here's the part where I realize my team's about to be in trouble. We have two fighters left on my team, my wingman, Predatorian, who's a good pilot, and one multi-role who I know nothing about. Predatorian's gotten himself piled on by every enemy fighter aircraft and just got shot down. I'm now in a game of chicken with Derpanoid in the henchman. Goodbye. And now I have three enemy fighters all congregated around me. Now I do my best here flying at a high altitude so I remain visible. They've just shot down the last fighter on my enemy team, and the only target they have available is me. So they're all going to go ahead and start chasing me now. So you'll see that I am heading back towards the concentration of AA guns back at our spawn point, and I'm dragging them along. I'm in a shallow dive to keep my speed up, and I'm focusing on keeping my tail gunner on any aircraft that gets behind me, like this Focke-Wulf. And good night. Now I have three fighters left. I don't have enough health left to tank them all, so I've got to get back to this AA envelope to make sure that all of them get taken out, because there's only attack aircraft left on my team, and all three of these guys together could easily have run the board race. And That is how you become a hero of the Soviet Union.